always thought we had the perfect family. You know the type. Dad grilling in the backyard, Mom laughing with a glass of wine, me and my younger brother tossing a football across the lawn. Our house looked like a stock photo of happiness. And Dad. He was the kind of man people don't make anymore. Quiet, dependable, steady like a heartbeat. Every birthday remembered. Every recital attended. The kind of man who washed the dishes after dinner, even when he'd worked a 12-hour shift. The kind of man who kissed Mom on the cheek every morning like it was still their first year of marriage. But something changed. It wasn't loud or obvious. That's how betrayal really works, it's quiet. It creeps in like fog, soft but suffocating. It started when Mom began locking her phone. Not a big deal, right? Everyone does that. But she never used to. Then came the late nights out. Book club, she said. Or wine night with the girls. First I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She was my mom. But the stories didn't line up. She said she was at Alyssa's house, but Alyssa had posted a picture at the movies. Lone. No group photo. No book in sight. And then there were the receipts. I wasn't snooping, not at first. But one day, she asked me to grab something from her purse and I found a crumpled hotel receipt dated 2 days prior. A hotel not even in our town. Room for one night. Paid in cash. It wasn't even hidden. Just buried like she didn't care if anyone found it. I didn't say anything. I wanted to pretend I hadn't seen it. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe it was for a friend. Maybe. But the seed was planted, and I couldn't unsee it. The next weekend when she said she had a spa day, I watched her leave the house in a dress I'd never seen before. Red. Like she was going on a date. Not to get a massage. My heart pounded so hard I had to sit down. My dad was in the kitchen at the time, humming while he made coffee. Humming. I should have asked her right then. I should have done something. But I didn't. Instead, I started watching her the way you'd watch a stranger. Her smile seemed fake. Her laugh too forced. And every time she glanced at her phone, something about the way she tilted the screen away from others made my stomach twist. One night, she left her phone on the table when she went to take a call in the other room. I didn't mean to look. But it lit up. Message. Just a name, Eli, and 3 words that shattered something inside me. Last night was perfect. I didn't breathe for a full 10 seconds. My hands shook. My ears rang. And all I could think was, if Dad saw this, it would destroy him. But he didn't. And I wasn't sure if I would be the one to change that. I started noticing patterns. Thursdays, always Thursdays. She'd leave around 6, dressed nicer than usual, light perfume, that same red lipstick she never wore around Dad. She called it girls' night like it was a ritual, but she always came home late. Past midnight, quiet, phone clutched in her hand like it was some fragile secret. She never greeted Dad when she came in. He was usually asleep by then anyway, trusting as always, snoring on the couch in front of the TV. I decided to follow her. I know how that sounds, but something inside me needed to see it with my own eyes. I didn't tell anyone. I waited for her to leave, then drove 10 minutes behind. She didn't go to any friend's house. She went to a rooftop bar downtown, parked, checked herself in the mirror, and walked in. 5 minutes later, a tall man in a black coat joined her at the bar. I couldn't see much. His face stayed turned, but the way she leaned in toward him, the way her hand grazed his arm, the way they laughed like no one else existed. It wasn't innocent. She kissed him. Not on the cheek. Not like a friend. She kissed him like she belonged to him. I didn't sleep that night. My brain wouldn't let me. Kept replaying it. Every second. Every frame. My chest felt heavy, like I was suffocating on something that didn't belong to me. I kept looking at Dad the next morning, waiting for something to click, some sign that he knew. But he didn't. He poured coffee. He packed his lunch. He kissed her cheek when she passed him in the hallway. And she smiled. Smiled like she hadn't just betrayed everything they built. I started saving the evidence. Screenshots. Emails. It wasn't revenge. I didn't even know what I planned to do with it. But I needed something tangible to remind myself it was real. that I wasn't just imagining it. Because when someone so close lies that well, it makes you doubt your own reality. One afternoon I found a second phone in her gym bag, hidden under a towel, switched off. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. Its presence was proof enough. I tried confronting her once. Lightly. Asked how her girl's night was. She hesitated before answering. That hesitation told me more than her words ever could. She mumbled something about wine and bad takeout. She didn't meet my eyes. I wanted to scream, to grab her by the shoulders and ask, "How could you do this to him?" But I stayed quiet. Because I wasn't ready for her answer. That night I wrote it all down. Everything. I opened a blank note and poured it all out. The nights, the lies, the name Eli. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I saved it under one title. If he ever asks. Because if my dad ever came to me with questions, I needed to be ready. I couldn't lie for her. Not twice. I thought the truth would feel heavier, but it didn't. Felt hollow. Like I'd been carrying a ghost. I kept wondering what made her do it. Was it boredom? Loneliness? Or had she just stopped loving him somewhere along the way and forgot to mention it? I didn't ask. And she didn't offer. We danced around each other in the house. Her avoiding eye contact, me pretending I didn't see everything she was trying to hide. The air between us thickened. Silent. Cold. Not a word spoken, but everything screamed. I'd noticed. Not the affair. But he started asking if I was okay. I told him I was tired. He offered to cook dinner, something he hadn't done in years. Said I looked pale. Said I seemed off. And all I could think about was how the man comforting me had no idea what was being done behind his back. Made me sick. I started resenting both of them, her for doing it and him for being so blind. I found the email on a Thursday afternoon. It was open on her laptop, left in a minimized window. She was in the shower. I shouldn't have read it, but I did. It wasn't poetic. It wasn't romantic. It was practical. Cold. She was making plans. Not fantasies. Logistics. Talk of a lease, of timing things right. A single line stood out. He doesn't suspect a thing. I'm giving it 2 more months. I didn't need to ask who he was. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I didn't care about keeping peace. I didn't care if it tore everything apart. I wanted her to say it out loud. So I waited for Dad to leave for work the next morning and I asked her straight out, "Are you leaving him?" Her face didn't move at first. She just stared. Then quietly she said, "I don't know." Not no. Not yes. Just a shrug buried in guilt. I asked if she loved him. She didn't answer. Just looked away, like even facing the question was too much. I told her I knew everything. That I'd seen her. That I'd read the messages, the emails. She didn't deny it. Didn't get angry. Just sat down like her legs gave out. She said she never meant to hurt anyone. That she was lost. That she didn't expect it to go this far. That she never planned for it to feel real. Then she begged me not to tell Dad. Said it would break him. Said he didn't deserve that kind of pain. And the worst part. She wasn't wrong. He didn't. But he also didn't deserve this lie. She asked me to let it go. To give her time. Said she needed to figure things out first. I didn't agree. But I didn't speak. I just nodded once. Because I didn't know what else to do. That night I wrote a post. No names. No faces. Just one question. Would you tell your father the truth, if it meant destroying the last good thing he believed in? I never told him. I kept the files, the screenshots, the memories, but I never said a word. Weeks passed. Then months. Something shifted between them, but he didn't see it. Or maybe he did and just chose not to name it. He stayed. The lease she talked about never happened. Eli disappeared, at least from our world. I don't know if it ended for love or fear or guilt, but she stopped going out on Thursdays. The red dress stayed in the closet. Her phone became less guarded. It was like she'd buried the entire thing under a layer of normal. Dad didn't question it. He still made his dumb jokes at dinner. Still brought home her favorite pastries from that little place by his work. He kissed her on the forehead like nothing ever cracked. Maybe he thought they were reconnecting. Maybe he took the calm as a win. I watched him closely, looking for signs of suspicion, of doubt. There were none. Just contentment. I told myself he deserved peace. That knowing wouldn't help him. That maybe protecting him meant sparing him the truth. But it didn't feel noble. It felt cruel in a different way. I saw the way he looked at her. Soft, trusting, proud. I saw the way she looked back. Hesitant, forced, sometimes even ashamed. They moved around each other like actors trying to stay in character. I wanted to hate her. Some days I did. Other days I just felt tired. Worn out from carrying a secret that wasn't mine but lived in my chest anyway. I couldn't talk to anyone. I couldn't bring it up without unraveling everything. So I stayed silent, pretending along with them. My own relationship started to rot from the inside. I couldn't trust words. Couldn't believe in forever. Every promise felt thin. Every I love you felt rehearsed. Became skeptical, then numb. I started pulling away from people who cared. I told myself I was protecting them, but really, I was guarding against becoming him. So blissfully unaware of the knife waiting behind the smile. Sometimes I think about telling him, years later, when it wouldn't matter as much. But I wonder if it would just poison the memories he holds so dearly. Maybe love isn't about truth. Maybe it's about what you choose to hold on to. And what you're willing to never ask. He still smiles when she brings him coffee. Still brags about how lucky he is. And every time I hear him say it, I feel this sharp twist of something I can't name. Not quite guilt. Not quite regret. Just wait. I wrote this here because I needed it out. I needed someone to know, even if it's strangers. Because I'm tired of holding it. Tired of wondering if silence was kindness or just cowardice. Dad won't see this. He never will. But I had to tell someone. And maybe that's enough.